Today, I'd like to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, the Cthulhu Mythos. And since we're going to do this in context of gaming, I'm going to talk a little later on about Call of Cthulhu, the game, the RPG. However, before we start, I'd like to get going and let you know what I think about the Cthulhu Mythos. How often have we seen the plush Cthulhu, the little coffee mugs, and all the sort of pop culture junk with Cthulhu emblazoned on it? Yes, sir. Boy, he's really something, isn't he? He gets treated, Cthulhu does, like yet another kaiju, another yet giant monster coming up out of the sea. Well, in my carefully considered opinion, after over 50 years of reading H.P. Lovecraft and other Cthulhu Mythos writers, no, that's not what he is. He is something much more. Cthulhu, the Cthulhu Mythos, are, in my opinion, the living or physical embodiment, if you will, of Lovecraft's philosophy, known as cosmicism, and his particular genre, cosmic horror. Now, what does this mean? Well, it is a form of existential nihilism. Wow, that's a big phrase. Basically, what it says, cosmicism says, is there are no gods. There is no God out there. It's just a large, blind, uncaring universe, so large, in fact, that what we do here on this little dust mote is meaningless. Everything is meaningless. All of it is meaningless. Because at any moment, the universe can just come along and swipe us away. Like killing a bunch of cockroaches. Yeah, well, that is in a nutshell cosmicism. It is a sense of loneliness. It is a sense of meaningless. It has a lot of the features of a deep chronic depression, because in some respects, that's what it is. Lovecraft himself had a series of issues, not just racism, but he was chronically depressed, it seemed, according to some writers. He was certainly an odd duck, but what he manifested with cosmicism was he put down in paper and on literature what that really meant to him, how that felt to him, how that affected him. That's what Cthulhu and the other great old ones and the outer gods really are. They're the embodiment of the universe, the cold, uncaring, miserable universe. It's neither good nor evil. It just is. Okay. This may be, too, why you saw writers like August Derleth, who himself was a very good writer. I've read some of his novels. He's a very good regional writer in the upper Midwest. That's why I think he rearranged Lovecraft, if you will. He brought in some of these elder gods. These were the white hats that were going to somehow restore purpose and meaning to the universe by vanquishing the old ones who took it all away. Horse crap. That's the one thing I really dislike about Derleth's work. He wanted to bring the mythos in to cast it as good versus evil. It isn't. It is the avalanche that's about to bury you one day. And that's where we left. This is the body of Lovecraft's work, his beautiful, dark vision. Before people start jumping on me, well, he was a racist. I could care less. He was a man of his time. But above all else, he was a dark visionary. I'm reminded of a couple of things. Alan Moore's The Watchman, the wonderful line in there, if I can remember it. I'm not going to try it. Let me paraphrase it. When Rorschach, the vigilante, is talking to a prison psychiatrist, and he basically says, we are nothing, we are born from nothing. We go to, he describes human existence as having all the substance of smoke rising from a crematorium chimney. It isn't God that abducts little 12-year-old girls. It isn't fate that kills them and cuts them up. It isn't destiny that feeds them to the dogs. It's us, just us. There is no one else. This is a very bleak view of the universe. There's really no such thing as winning. Again, winning, losing are irrelevant. So now we get to, how do you do this in role-playing games? How can you bring this to the table, to the gaming table? There are several methods, several types and themes of things that, in my opinion, work very well. First of all, you need to get your players to understand what it is they're dealing with. Now, we've all seen or probably heard we're playing Call of Cthulhu, we're all going to die. More than likely. Or we're all going to go insane. Yeah. Call of Cthulhu has that wonderful mechanic in there called sanity. Whoa! And it's been a wonderful tool for me to use both as a lore master or keeper and as a player. If you wish to play the innocent, the scholar, the lawyer who stumbles onto something strange, somebody who's not really knowing what they're getting into and then discovers that knowledge they've been digging out, yeah, it's got one hell of a price. Indeed. There is another school, which I call Pulp Cthulhu, and this is, to me, has been a recent phenomenon, a recent development. About 1995, Pagan Publishing, great bunch of guys buy their stuff, brought out Delta Green, modern day Call of Cthulhu role-playing. Superb. It's Cthulhu Mythos brought into modern times. By the way, there's a new updated edition that is due out probably within the year. They're working on it. And in the second Delta Green book, Delta Green Countdown, John Tynes, one of the canniest and best game designer writers around, wrote an entire chapter called The Hastur Mythos. And it's very incredible. And again, it speaks to the idea of using this mythos. Of course, with the Hastur Mythos, once again, you can either have it as a tentacled monster, or you could do some really trippy things with it. It's a very good chapter to read. Recently, and in fact, I reviewed it here a couple of weeks ago, Achtung Cthulhu. World War II, fighting the mythos. Well, I'll get to that in a minute, whether or not you're actually fighting the mythos. Again, uh, you can also go to the works of David Conyers, for example, or Cody Goodfellow. You know, the stereotypical Lovecraftian protagonist is this really kind of geeky, aesthetic, whose nerves are shattered like thin glass every time something weird happens. But what if not? What if your protagonist, is a U.S. Army Ranger? If you want to put it in modern context, you know, say a former Marine sniper from Afghanistan who's now a private security contractor. These aren't exactly the kind of people that are just going to crap down their leg and run the minute something odd happens. They're going to fight back. So pick your theme carefully. What's going to suit your group? Do you have the sort of role players around that table that wouldn't mind taking a trip into the very nature of the mythos? Or do you, in essence, have monster hunters, monster fighters, whatever you wish to call them? Either approach, in my opinion, is valid and will produce some good gaming. Indeed, it will. And after all, that is the purpose. But I would advise you as a lore master, keeper, whatever you want to call yourself, to really get familiar with what do you want to do. But I would also advise you as a player to get your head into it. How do you want to play it? First of all, look, what are you playing? How do you want to approach it? You could take a very Nietzschean approach, which I always liked. Yeah, someday the great old ones are going to break through, and yeah, we're going to get stomped off this little ball of mud like we're so many ants. But not today. We have won today. We've stopped the cultist. We've banished the Creed Mythos, minion. We've won today. So let us hold to that victory and prepare for tomorrow. Sort of the idea of it is in the struggle that our true natures are released. You could take that approach. But no matter what approach you wish to take, I would say this. First of all, to the lore master, the lore keeper, start them off against something relatively, how do I say this, easily killable. You can deal with it. Low sand loss. Let them get a feel for what they're up against, for what they're in for, and then increase it. Then increase it. Let them get into it gradually. In fact, if you are smart, if you want to do something really smart, in my opinion, you don't even bring in the great old one. Now, I know that you can. I have the rules. And there are rules in there for why we are going to contact Cthulhu. Why in God's name would you want to do that? But even so, make that a very heavy price. You are actually asking one of these monstrous beings to say, hey, pay attention to me. Okay, right. Yeah. That can end badly, and usually does. Or you can gen up the hit points and make it D&D style. We're monster killers. Look, I've got a +10 sword of God slaying. So I'm going to go out and chop up Great Cthulhu because he's only got 350 hit points. That's not how I do it. As far as I'm concerned, Cthulhu and the other great old ones have no hit points. Or whether they have so many, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Well, I think I've rambled on long enough, and I hope you get the general idea. The Cthulhu mythos is fearsome. Cosmic horror is a very, very powerful experience. You do it right, and your players are going to leave with a sense that something strange has happened and that maybe they can't control it. And if you're lucky, they'll want to come back and play some more. Until then, play games, have fun. Hail Cthulhu. Thank you.